In this episode, I'll be sharing how to manifest confidence and self-love after a dark time. So let's get started.
Hi, I'm Katie, and after many years as a struggling single mum, I transformed into a highly successful manifester with multiple businesses, better relationships, financial abundance, and way more peace, joy, and happiness in my life. Each week, I share the real secrets around how to manifest successfully, as well as the amazing and sometimes crazy lessons I've learned along the way, so that you can apply it all to your own manifesting, transforming your life from the inside out. This is That Manifesting Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of That Manifesting Podcast. It's lovely to have you along with me for your weekly dose of manifesting tips and advice and stories to help you find that love and that life that you really, really want. How's your week been? Mine has been very, very interesting, and it actually is what's led me to the topic of today's podcast, which is manifesting confidence and self-love after a dark time. I've had a really positive week. It has been an extremely difficult time in my marketing business. But things are really starting to accelerate and manifest in exactly the way that I intended in terms of opportunities that are coming through. And when things like that happen to me now, it really does bolster my confidence and I feel proud. But it doesn't surprise me because I'm confident in my ability to manifest what I want, and I'm just plain stubborn, so I'll never give up. I know I'm really good at what I do, not in a big-headed way, but I'm very confident with my manifesting. Now, I have had super tough moments. That little monologue makes it sound like business is booming, but actually it's been an incredibly challenging time in my business, to the point where other people may have thought that their businesses were about to fold. But I'm choosing how to look at them. I have had things happen in the business because it's my belief that it's making way for what needs to come into my life. I can't fit everything in that I've currently got going on, and things have to move for the right things to come in. So when things feel uncomfortable for me or could be perceived as a dark time, I start to look at them as something to be excited about, because it means that something amazing is coming. And that has been absolutely true for me in the business. After a really challenging time very recently, it all happened super quick, like within the space of a week. Things felt like they could have been seen as going really, really downhill. And then this phenomenal opportunity came in, and everything that happened made sense. It all had to happen for this one huge opportunity to come through. I always knew that that was the case because, like I said, I'm confident in my manifesting and I do trust the journey that I'm on. But it got me thinking that it hasn't always been that way for me. When I went through my divorce, and several times after that at different periods of life, I experienced incredibly low self-confidence. And to be honest, I disliked myself quite a lot. I blamed myself for everything. And without realising it at the time, that was what I manifested more of. I manifested more opportunities to dislike myself, more opportunities to put blame onto myself, because I was stuck in that cycle of manifesting more of the same. As a single person, I didn't feel love from anyone outside of my family. And so I believed that I had no love in my life. That was the story I told myself. And I also then took it one step further and believed it wasn't there because of maybe the things I'd done or the things I hadn't done, the person I wasn't, the person I was. I internalized all of that, and it really impacted my confidence, and I lost that love for myself. None of those things were true, but it can be so easy when you go through a tough or challenging time to internalize it as your fault. It's because of something you didn't do, or it's because of the person you are, or personality traits that you haven't got. And that is just not true. I know that this is common for a lot of people. Many of the clients that I work with struggle terribly with confidence. They struggle immensely with feeling love for themselves. It's almost like they don't even feel worthy of loving themselves. And to me, it's a joy to help them go through to the other side where they can feel confident. They've changed their outlook on life, and they have that sense of love that they've probably never felt for themselves since they were a child. Some of them never even felt it as a child, and that's magical. A lot of us are on autopilot to internalise bad times as our fault. Look back on your own life. Have things happened and your immediate place? Yes, you might have anger for somebody else or for a situation, but at some point, do you turn it back on yourself? Do you think, if only I'd done this, or if I hadn't have been this way, if I hadn't have reacted in this way, then this wouldn't be happening? And that's really why I wanted to cover this today, because of my own experience recently, but also because it's so common with my one-to-one clients. I wanted to share with you just some of my thoughts and tips around how to manifest confidence and self-love after dark times. So the first thing that you have to grasp onto, if you want to start feeling better about yourself, better about your life, feeling more self-love, is you have to learn to reframe. Reframing the things that have happened to you in the past. And this is really important because when we have a situation, I'm going to talk about it in terms of a relationship. You have an argument with somebody in a relationship, and the two people generally will have different perceptions. It doesn't necessarily mean that one person's right and one person's wrong, but each person has their own perceptions. Quite often we will take on subconscious beliefs that have been formed on perceptions, our own perceptions, which aren't necessarily the truth. And that can be a dangerous place to be, because what you start doing is manifesting, putting out into the universe all of these perceptions about yourself that aren't necessarily true. And I had a huge awakening around the power of reframing in my own life. As a child, I know I've shared before on the podcast, I was a product of a broken home, and my dad got into a relationship with somebody and she took a disliking to me right from the age of being a child. And from what we can assume and gather from what was said, it was purely because I looked like my mum. She didn't like that. And as a child, I was about 8 or 9 at the time. I was made to feel very, very uncomfortable by this woman. And it really was the start of my difficult journey with love for myself. And I remember it was one Christmas, and it was leading up to Christmas. Myself and my sister had gone to stay with my dad and his girlfriend. She's now his wife, but at the time she was his girlfriend. And she said, we're going to make a Christmas cake. We're going to do some fancy icing. We're going to make it look like ski slopes. It's going to be really cool. And I was really excited because I thought this is going to be really good fun. Like, it sounded really cool. My sister was excited. She'd already baked the cake and it was sat on the side. And I remember we were in this little tiny kitchen and she said, right, let's get started with the icing. So myself and my sister moved forward to go and have a look at what she was doing. And she turned round to me and she said to me, not you. I'm going to do this with your sister. And I was devastated. I looked at her and I said, but I want to do it as well. And she said, no, there's not enough room for everybody. I'll just do it with her. And I can see myself now from the outside looking in, and, my head dropped, and I felt like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't wanted in that moment. So I stepped back, and then I was just this little 8-year-old girl, and I was watching my dad, his girlfriend, and my sister having lots of fun, creating this Christmas cake, creating icing peaks and hills, and I wasn't allowed to be involved. It was just me standing there by myself. I didn't realise it, but I internalised that. I internalised that the perceptions I had were that I wasn't wanted, I wasn't good enough to be involved, I wasn't as good as my sister. My dad didn't think it was important enough to stand up for me and say, no, Katie must be involved as well. All of these perceptions became my beliefs, and those beliefs became my identity. And from then on, over the years, I would start to find other ways to back up those perceptions. I had to back up the perception that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't allowed to join in with things. And that lasted for a long time. And it was only when I started working with my mentor that I realised that I had to reframe that, because although it was hurtful and she should never have treated a child like that, a lot of it was my own perceptions. I didn't know that my dad didn't think I was worth fighting for. That was my perception. And when you can learn to reframe a situation and look at it from different ways, they start to lose their power. So with that particular situation, I learnt to reframe it that he was too weak to fight for me. It wasn't that I wasn't worthy. It wasn't that I wasn't lovable. It was that he was too weak to fight for me. That was not down to my shortcomings. That was down to his. And when I was able to reframe it, it was just the most freeing experience. But I didn't stop there. I also had to reframe that if I held on to the belief that it was my fault as an adult and still had that belief, then in essence, I'm doing the same thing as I thought people were doing to me. I'm blaming a child. If I still hold those beliefs that I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm doing the same thing to myself as a child that hurt me in the first place. It's a vicious cycle. So I had to reframe it. I also had to reframe being a victim. That happened to me, and it was sad, and it was only one of very many situations that as a child I should never have been put in. And as I got older, I manifested more of it, and I learnt to understand that it's normal to experience dark times. Life is meant to be in circles. It's part of our human experience. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you deserved anything that happened to you. It means that you experienced something, and it becomes your choice how you choose to look at it. I choose to reframe those situations, and that's what I would invite you to do. If there are particular situations in your life that have impacted your confidence, impacted the love that you feel for yourself, try reframing a dark time as a challenging and transformative experience. And think about what becomes possible for you if you acknowledge it as transformational, as a transformational moment. What becomes possible for you from that moment onwards? That's the power of reframing. And as I said, it was life-changing for me. The next thing that I learnt was about reconnecting with your own strength and resilience. When we've had a dark time, you've lost your confidence, maybe you're not feeling great, you do get very down on yourself. And our subconscious drivers will look for ways to punish ourselves to prove our theories. We will often it's human nature when something goes wrong to analyse. Why did they do this? Why did I do that? Why did this happen? Why didn't this happen? And for many people, the natural inclination is to punish ourselves, to prove our theories. But if we ever want to manifest a brighter future, we have to reconnect to our inner strength and resilience. You might think, oh, I'm so weak, I can't deal with this. This is awful. I don't know if I'm strong enough. But I know for a fact, no matter who you are right now, I know that you're stronger and more resilient than you believe you are right now. How do I know? Well, you're listening to this. The topic of this podcast is very, very clear, and you've chosen to listen to it. And that tells me that you want to keep moving forward. You want to improve. And despite all of the shit that you might have been through, you're still here fighting for yourself on some level. You have to reconnect with that strength and resilience that's there that maybe you've forgotten. Cut yourself some slack. Be a bit kinder to yourself. Realise just exactly what you've overcome in your own life, the difficult times, the hard moments, the periods where you thought, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. But here you are. You got through it and you're listening to me babble on at you about loving yourself. You know how to do this. You've just got to reconnect with yourself. Celebrate small victories, your ability to overcome challenges. When I was alone with my daughter, when I was first single and I had gone through my very, very difficult marriage, I couldn't go to the supermarket by myself with my daughter. I was too scared of what would happen, and I hated myself for it. I told myself every single day I was weak. I wasn't a strong person. I was pathetic. All of this stuff that I told myself. And then when it changed, that first time when I thought, I'm going to do this, I found that little bit of strength and I took my daughter to the supermarket by myself. It felt like I'd just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. It was huge. And it changed everything for me. And this is what you don't see all the time. Those small victories can sometimes be the magnificent turning point that you need to change your life. So celebrate them. If you have a little win, no matter how little it is, pat yourself on the bloody back. Tell yourself that you're an awesome person and know that you're an awesome person. You're strong and you're resilient. There are people that go through the exact same situations in life. Some emerge stronger and others will use it to keep them down. You see it all the time. I used to love, if you're not listening in the UK, you won't know this reference, but in the UK we used to have a programme called Jeremy Kyle. It's been cancelled now, but in America it might be like the equivalent, like Dr. Phil or whatever. And I always used to find it remarkable. There would be stories on there with people that had had incredibly difficult childhoods, and some of them would emerge and they would use it as fuel to make their lives better. They would be out there crushing life, doing everything they knew they could do, helping other people. And then there would be somebody else who had been through the exact same thing, and it would literally still be destroying their life. Now, I'm not saying that that person is wrong. What I'm saying is that person hasn't learned how to reconnect with their own strength and resilience. It's there. Does it help to have people bringing you up and helping you? Absolutely. But number one, we have to do it for ourselves. Whether you choose to acknowledge a tough time as a moment that you displayed strength and resilience, even though it felt like everything was crumbling, or a moment that broke you, is always your choice. You always get to choose the narrative. You get to choose whether you reconnect to your strength and resilience and appreciate just how badass and bloody epic you are, or whether you use it to keep yourself stuck in a dark and difficult time. The next thing that made a difference for me was forgiving and letting go. This sounds obvious, but this isn't just about forgiving people who caused the dark time in your life. This is also about self-forgiveness. When you choose to ignore self-forgiveness, all you're doing is keeping yourself stuck in a prison of emotions and feelings that are linked to that old situation. When you forgive somebody else, but you don't forgive yourself, you keep the subconscious beliefs that you weren't worthy, that you did something wrong, that you weren't good enough, you made a mistake, and all you'll do is manifest the same thing over and over again. In my past, in various relationships, I acted horribly as a direct result of what people had done to me. I was a revenge seeker. I was one of those awful people that would seek revenge on people that had done something wrong to me. After time, I would forgive them for what they'd done and I'd move on. But I'd still manifest the exact same outcome in the next relationship. And this was because I hadn't forgiven myself. I was trapped in a subconscious prison of my own making. I just manifested more and more ways to feel like shit. I had to, at some point, forgive myself, look back at my past and think, I didn't act very well in that situation, but do you know what? I did the best that I could with the information and awareness that I had at that time. Life is nothing but a continuous lesson, and you're not the same person that you are today as you were a year ago. Give yourself some grace. But forgive yourself. For goodness sake, forgive yourself. It was a game changer for me. I spent so long focusing on, I've got to forgive him and I've got to forgive him for this and that and the other. I never once thought about forgiving myself because I knew I hadn't acted the best. I knew I hadn't done the right thing. But I just assumed that forgiving somebody else was the key to taking my life back. But it wasn't. That didn't help me feel more confident. It didn't help me love myself anymore because I'd never learnt to forgive myself and give myself a bit of grace. Okay? One exercise that I did that really helped is go back. If you can relate to this and you think, yeah, I've got stuff in my past that I'm not proud of. I know I need to forgive myself. It can be hard to make that separation between who you are today and who you are then. And you can think, am I still that person? Would I still react that way? Here's what I'd invite you to do. Go back to that time and write a diary entry as that old version of yourself. And you'll immediately feel the disconnect. And that in itself can reinforce just how far you've come, just how much you've changed. It can also be quite fun. I found it quite funny because I was writing things about revenge that I wouldn't dream of doing now. And I read them and I thought, my goodness, what an absolute horror. I was awful at times, but it did make me chuckle a little bit. I thought, oh my goodness, goodbye to that, Katie. And hello to someone who is clearly much better at dealing with life. And that in itself started to build my confidence and it made me proud of myself. It made me proud of how far I'd come. So sometimes it is good to go back to a time when you didn't act the way you wanted to and look at the contrast between where you were then and where you are now, and you will see a magical difference. Okay, gosh, I feel like I'm really enjoying this episode. I feel like I'm getting a lot of things out that I needed to say to you. It's really good. I hope you're getting a lot out of it too. Now, it's one thing to do all this lovely inner work, but if you don't have boundaries about what you will and won't accept, then you'll never build your self-love and confidence back up. And I say that because it can be easy. I don't know when you listen to this podcast. Maybe you listen to it in the evening or at the weekend. And you can listen to something like this and think, yes, absolutely, totally agree. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my life. And if you're anything like me, I used to do these sorts of things, and then I'd go back to my job that I hated. I'd feel really great, go back, and then whoop, straight back into negativity. So you have to start to set boundaries with people and situations that are draining your energy, your confidence, your self-love, your negativity, people fueling your negativity. That's where you have to set boundaries. Because you can do all of this work to build up your confidence, to feel that love for yourself, and it can just take one person, one situation that you let in past the guard of your mind. You let them in and they destroy everything with one comment, one situation. You have to set boundaries subconsciously. I know that's easier said than done. It's something I work with my clients on, but it does make a huge difference. And I've got a few more actions that you can take that will really help you to start to build that confidence and self-love. Okay? If you're really struggling to find that sense of love for yourself and build your confidence back up after a difficult time, I want you to ask the people who care for you the most what they see in you. Just ask them. Has to be people you trust. Has to be people that you know won't bullshit you. People that you know will tell you the truth. Ask them what they see in you. Write that down, every single thing, and go back to it over and over and over again. Because those are from the people who love you, but those are also from the people that you know won't lie to you. This is not you trying to tell yourself. This is somebody else telling you what they see in you. And then what I want you to do is whatever they tell you, whatever you write down, I want you to go and look for other situations in your life that back every single thing up that they have told you. So if somebody says to you, do you know what? You are the most selfless person that I've ever met. I want you to then say, when did I show you that I was selfless? And they'll tell you about a situation. I then want you to go back over your own life and look for other situations where you were selfless. And you're building up this case. You're building up this case to show that you're worthy of loving yourself. You're worthy of having this confidence. Because here's the thing, you can't manifest what you don't already have. You have to do the work and keep doing the work until you feel love for yourself and until you feel that confidence. Never ever stop. You've got to stop being a victim of heartbreak, tough times, shitty people, and just fight for yourself. You'll receive the love and respect that you believe you deserve. And you'll only receive the love and respect that aligns to your most limiting beliefs. So you have to get rid of as many as you can. Okay? You have to become a lawyer arguing against the beliefs that you have about yourself. Now this exercise, this next exercise, this was a really interesting one that somebody asked me to do. And at first I felt quite uncomfortable by it, but it was incredibly powerful. And it was one simple question. They said to me, what would be better in the world if everyone was like you? And it took me a while to think about. But actually, once I started, it was amazing because the first thing I came up with something stupid, which was there would be no more rudeness on the roads. Because I always say thank you to people. If they let me out of a junction, I say thank you. And then I thought, okay, so what would the whole world be like if everyone was polite like that on the roads? And I thought, do you know what? That would be pretty bloody awesome. And then I started going even deeper with it, and I thought, if everyone in the world was like me, there'd be no cheating. And then I thought, what would a world with no one cheating on each other be like? And again, it was like powerful stuff. I can't claim this exercise as my own. It was something that was given to me, but it was so interesting and powerful. So do this for yourself. Keep thinking about what would be better in the world if everyone was like you. What wouldn't happen in the world if everyone was like you? And then visualize a world where that is the case. And you'll be quite surprised at just how much it opens your eyes. Like, you might think, okay, if everyone was like me in the world, there would be no war. If there's no war, what does that feel like? Imagine the impact that would have on everybody's lives. It's quite a powerful place to go when it comes to realizing that you're a pretty bloody awesome person. If more people were like you, a lot of stuff would be different. And that's a powerful place to be. And the last exercise that I've got for you is you can try writing a letter from your future self. The future you who is full of confidence and self-love. And they're writing to the person you are today. But what they're doing is they're explaining how it feels. How does it feel to have that sense of self-love and confidence that is completely unshakable? How did they get there? What did they have to let go of and do differently to actually allow themselves to feel that confidence and self-love? That's quite a nice one to do. Personally, I like the what would be better in the world if everyone was like me. I quite like that one. But I've given you a few different things to try that really have made a difference for me. Now, you might get to this point and think, nah, I still don't like myself. I've got no confidence. I'm not willing to do the inner work. I don't want to make things better. It's not going to work for me. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. If that's you, and you're saying it with your chest, I will clap you up. You do you. You stay where you want to stay. You keep self-loathing. You keep your confidence down. If that's what you want to do, you do you. But on the flip side, if you've reached this point, I believe it's because you want things to be different. You might be single, you might be a solo parent, you might be a lone empty nester, but your life can be filled with the most incredible love and feelings of confidence that's radiating from the inside out. And that is your choice to make. But it's also your work to do. No one else can do that for you. We hold on to bad feelings a lot of the times about ourselves because if we do it to us, ourselves, then it doesn't hurt so much when other people do it to us. If we have a core perception that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, when someone else tries to make us feel not worthy, not good enough, it doesn't hurt quite so much because we're expecting it. But if those are our core beliefs, then you just manifest more situations that will make you feel that way. It's you that has the power to let all of that go. No one else can do it for you. It's you who has the power to say, do you know what? I'm a pretty badass, awesome person. I know what I deserve in life. I know what I want in life. I'm grateful for the journey that I've been on. And the journey that I've been on has made me realise that I'm okay. I'm actually okay. I'm confident than I've ever been. I love myself, even if I don't have a partner beside me, walking through life with me. I love myself. That's where I want you to get to. I hope that this really helps you if you are struggling with a dark time and you are feeling that lack of self-confidence, lack of self-love. Save this episode, listen to it over and over again, try out the exercises, and if you know someone else who's going through the same sort of thing or going through a difficult time, share this episode with them and just see if it can help.
So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed listening, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe and leave a review because it really does help me to reach more people. I've left some links in the show notes so you can connect with me or you can grab one of my manifesting resources. Until next week, sending you lots of love, light and manifesting vibes.